Hi, I'm Eoin.
And I'm Rachel.
Welcome back and thanks again for tuning in for another episode of No Clients Were Harmed. If you're new here, myself and Rachel are psychotherapists who take our jobs very seriously, but ourselves not at all. We will be talking about the messy, funny, frustrating side of therapy. It's going to be mental health, but let's not get dramatic.
If you are enjoying listening to our conversations, we would love to hear from you with your comments or questions. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and the No Clients Were Harmed website. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you're listening. And please do share it with someone who would enjoy listening to us and maybe could do with a bit of a crash course in therapy.
We all have a friend that could do with a crash course in therapy, let's be honest.
We definitely do.
For this episode, we're going to be starting off with a segment that we are calling What's in the Room, where each week we'll explore some common or fundamental issue that we often encounter in our roles as professional psychotherapists.
Oh, professional psychotherapists. Also, as human beings, remember, Eoin, we don't make it too serious. Let's have a little bit of a laugh and let's not get too dramatic.
All right, I can always count on you to knock me down a peg or two, can't I? So this week we're going to be looking at the therapeutic "How are you?"
Or how are you?
Not how are you. That's a different thing. We're looking at how are you, and then we will delve into the theme of toxic relationships, what makes a relationship toxic, why we might find ourselves in one, and how to recover and heal from one.
We're going to go into a section called Spill the Tea. We're going to provide some practical tips and, very unusually for therapists, some actual advice.
The format we're using for this is a case study in the form of a letter where we use a representative scenario to illustrate a particular issue. Now, we would be happy to consider letters from you guys if anyone would like to send us in something, but please bear in mind we are intending to do one in depth for each episode, so please don't be offended if we don't get to your submission. Today we'll be meeting Florence, who is quite frustrated and stupefied by Jack's decision to break up with her.
Oh, Florence. Flo. Let's call her Flo.
Okay, Flo. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure that she would like that, but you could judge for yourselves later on. We've got a lot to get through, so let's get started. Rachel, what's in the room with us today?
What's in the room? So people have obviously heard of the Irish goodbye. Are they familiar with the Irish hello, Eoin? I think you would have a really lovely story to tell us about when you were living in London.
For a time, I lived and worked in the smallest city in England. Yeah. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
And it would take me an hour to get from one side of the town to the other, and it was a small city. Just because I'm passing people on the street, and as I'm passing them, I'd say, how are you? And they would stop and they would literally tell me how they were doing. Now, if anyone has spent any time in Ireland, you would know that when we pass you on the street and we say, how are you doing? How are you? Hello, how's it going? Don't tell us.
Yeah, do not tell us.
Yeah, we don't really care. Like, what's an acceptable answer to how's it going?
Grand.
Yeah, fine.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a wave.
Yeah.
Not at all my experience in London. That doesn't happen. When you told me that story, I was like, okay, you were probably sticking out like a sore thumb, were you?
I was, but London is a proper city. People do not care. But that's why Irish people also get described as so friendly, because top level, we let people in. We will chat shit to anybody about anything without talking about anything significant at all.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. It's like when it happens, you literally talk to anyone, any person from any place in the entire world. I'm pretty sure Galway was voted like friendliest city in Europe or something at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, there's never actually any substance to the conversation, and it's, I don't know, I think it's quite funny because most people, when they say how are you, and if they actually get caught, they're then annoyed afterwards, like you were describing. They're like, oh my God, I got stuck there. And it's like, why did you get stuck there? You put yourself in that position.
Yeah, I have heard people get upset when our code is cracked. When people realize, hold on a minute, Irish people, and I'm horribly stereotyping here. I think part of it does come from 800 years of oppression. We don't like people to know our business, and we know that information is power. So we'll keep it safe. We'll keep it surface, but like there is feedback when people kind of realize I've been talking to this guy or I've been meeting this guy or this girl for as long and I don't know anything about them. They haven't been vulnerable. They haven't shared anything. And there is something kind of very protected about that. if you couldn't trust who was listening, your culture was repressed, oppressed and suppressed for as long as it was. But there is a collective kind of wounding there of not being able to step into ourselves or take a compliment or be honest or be open, because we'll get ourselves in trouble.
Yeah, keep your business to yourself or just to your family.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably partially as well because of the size of the country. I know it's always spoken about how small it is. In general, people try to keep their business to themselves, but at the same time, everyone wants to know everybody else's.
Yeah, and that's it. Information is power. Knowledge is power. If I can get something from you, I have something over you, but I'm going to do my best not to share something with you in case you use it against me. Then we're asking people to come into the room, and quite often the first thing that we're asking them is, how are you? And it's actually heartfelt and honest and sincere.
And also, like, not only interested in the answer, but very present in what you're going to say, because people are wrapped up in their own lives, and like that kind of how are you is very flippant or can be very flippant, and they're not necessarily, it's not the same experience as being in a room with someone that is very present and is there to be present with you and truly cares. So I think that can be daunting.
It really can be. You know, we're asking people to lower their defenses. And if they're coming into therapy and maybe they haven't had the experience of therapy before, it's really difficult to be emotionally vulnerable. We'll tap into this later when we go into what was the name that you wanted to give our middle section, because I don't think that I can. It's
interesting. You just said the name you wanted to give it. So the name I have given it is It's Giving. It's the section It's Giving, because Eoin had a really good name that will never make the podcast. It was so boring. So it's going to be called It's Giving.
So when we get into It's Giving toxic relationships, we will kind of look back at how we find ourselves in those relationships.
Yes.
So to get back to the hello, why would somebody be nervous about being honest with themselves and with the other person in answering that question?
It's really quite daunting to say to someone, I'm not okay, because that would mean not only do they know that, but you actually have to look at that. Most of the time, if we are struggling, we're not fully allowing ourselves to feel those feelings. So not knowing what those feelings would be like for us is probably what keeps us from being honest. And I think it depends on the context of the relationships. What do you think, Eoin?
I think some people are psychos. Okay. And some people are assholes. And that's non-gendered assholes, by the way. Let me just be clear about that. Some people want information so that they can put it in their back pocket and weaponize it and use it against you. And it comes back to information is power. And if you have an experience of that in the past, then it is going to close you down and shut you down. And this ties in with toxic relationships.
Yeah, because I think it's an experience. They are echoes. Their experience in the room and their lack of safety in the room in the initial stages is based off echoes and really very real experiences from what you described really well as psychos and assholes in their past. And they are things that happened, and they are hurtful, and they do leave wounds. And it's an experience to feel safe, and it's actually the experience between two people, and it's built, which I think is probably why it's, well, you and I are the best therapists ever. But no, you and I are relational therapists, because that's the fundamental basis of the experience for the client.
To clarify, when I said that in episode 1, I was referring lightheartedly to Irish therapists being the best therapists in the world.
I'm sure.
Because we deal with a population that has been through 800 years of oppression. If you want to say that among the best therapists in the world, you are top of that pile, that's fine, Rachel. You go and do that. It's giving narcissist, but
Please
anyway.
Don't say that word. Okay.
Well, if you've made it a part of the podcast, I'm going to have to fucking say it.
Yeah, I suppose it's a shared experience here, isn't it? Well, okay.
So I think we've covered a lot there. Now we might leave that there and kind of, if you want to introduce the next section, and we'll talk about an environment where there isn't safety in the room.
Yeah, Toxic relationships. So a very important discussion that Eoin and I have had. Can you tell me your understanding or your experience and understanding of toxic relationships as a therapist versus in your personal life? I'm not asking about personal stories. I'm talking about your understanding of it amongst like social media and how it's discussed versus what you actually experience in a room with a client.
We've established that I am a youthful dinosaur. So like for my mental health, I kind of tend to stay away from social media as much as possible. There is some engagement that's necessary as part of my therapy center piece inside and with this podcast as well. It becomes very black and white. This is one thing and this is the other, and I'm on this side and you're on the other side, and then we can't be friends. And like in the next episode, we're going to be looking at conflict styles and whether it's possible to have a good argument or not. And I think social media, X in particular, is an example of where it's not possible to have a good argument. And the way that toxicity, that's toxic relationship is thrown about as an accusation at people within social media in particular.
And labelled very quickly.
I think that does a disservice to people who actually find themselves in toxic relationships. Somebody who is maybe actively trying to bring them down or to keep them vulnerable. Goes into coercive control.
There have been a number of times where I've heard words that I'd never heard of in my life, even through training, that have essentially been created on social media and made into this trend almost. There's no context to that, and if people are reading that on their own and recognizing a couple of different lines within it and then assuming that that's their experience, that can be really hurtful. And also on the other side, for someone that might be creating the toxic dynamic, it can be weaponized. You know, even a word like boundaries that we spoke about in our first episode, people can weaponize that word and say, you know, you're overstepping a boundary, when in reality that might be them being super controlling or super manipulative, and that can definitely be used in a really harmful way.
So how would you define toxic relationship? Look, the internet loves a list. Give me 3 top traits. We can obviously package that up and use it across our socials.
I think 3 of them were manipulation, controlling behavior, and toxic communication. Kind of what I was describing about like weaponizing people's language and emotion. And you can find yourself in a dynamic that, but you know, both people are bringing out possibly manipulative parts of each other.
That's really interesting for me because like that brings up for me that you had an idea of one in your mind.
Yeah, I did.
Like what gender was it? Like
no particular gender, but I think a lot of the time that probably comes from social media, because a lot of the time on social media it's like you have a toxic girlfriend or a toxic boyfriend. It's generally one person that's spoken about, and it's like that is the wrong person, that's the bad person in this relationship.
Yeah, I get you. It's a tough thing to say. It's very rarely 100% one person's responsibility. And I'm really kind of cautious that is not victim blaming.
No.
That's a different situation. But I suppose we bring something into a relationship and it can be one kind of sparking off the other. But again, I wouldn't say that that's a toxic relationship. I think that's like a disagreement or an argument. People have fallings out, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that the relationship is toxic. What I'm looking for in a toxic relationship is that there is a consistent pattern over time. And it might be 2 people bringing out the absolute worst in each other. And there's still this magnetic attraction. And it can be like, oh, hold on there a minute. You're really bad together. And you might love them. You might want to be with them. The sexual attraction could be off the chart, but like just break up. Save everybody the headache of having to listen to your drama all the time.
You love the drama and you love the receipts, so please don't even lie. Also, why do you think people find themselves in those relationships? You said that people bring out the worst in each other. How do you think people get to that stage?
There are relationships that turn out to be toxic. And that can be where 2 people just don't match and can't accept each other the way they are. And there's a development of kind of point scoring. And where somebody has to be right all of the time and there's no backing down. And like for me, that would be one of my core traits in a toxic relationship where one party isn't able to take responsibility or isn't able to go, do you know what? I did overstep there. Or I communicated that badly.
Like a visual that's coming up in my head is, it's like as you grow up, you build this house and you live in that house, and that's the house that you live in, and that's the way you understand life. And somebody else is building a totally different house, and you want to take that other person and make them live in your house, regardless of the fact that they have their own, and the other person wants to do the same thing. And it's this inability to actually build a house together and recognize that it's a team.
And that's a reason why I think that a lot of social media is toxic, because if you don't agree with me and everything that I'm saying, then you have to be wrong because I have to be right.
Yeah, and most of the time there's no context behind a lot of it.
Like you'd ask, how do we end up in toxic relationships? Like sometimes there is relationships that have been modeled for us, and there can be a lack of security in ourselves. You know, people have a tendency to be their own worst critic. And if I'm constantly beating myself up and I'm looking at somebody and I've put them up in a pedestal, then I'm going to imagine that whatever they say is right and whatever I say is wrong.
Yeah.
We all have egos. We all like to be told, yeah, you're right.
You love to be told you're
right. Do you know what? I don't. I don't, because there's an insincerity about it. And one phrase that really gets me at the minute, and it's been creeping in for the last couple of years, it's, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And it's all over American reality television.
Yeah.
And it's seeping in. It's getting into the UK.
Why is it bothering you?
Because it's like taking something that actually is meaningful and is impactful, and like if somebody says to me, I appreciate you, I'm like, oh man, that's really nice.
It's a very tender and like vulnerable thing to say in a space that's healthy.
Yes, but then because people know it's a tender and vulnerable thing to say in a space that's healthy, then they will take it out and it just becomes a word, and then it loses its meaning. It's just something to say instead of a full stop at the end of a sentence. I appreciate you. No, you fucking don't, Jonathan.
In the wrong context as well, loses its value. Yeah, I get that.
We've kind of talked about the term toxic relationships. We've defined what toxic relationships are and how people get into it. In a toxic relationship, very often it starts off with love bombing, and the person is the best person you've ever been with. They're complimentary. They really kind of reel you in.
Want to know all about you so they can, in turn weaponize that information and use it.
Yeah. And then you will find yourself being isolated from your friends without recognizing it. And it's really hard because this person has become the cornerstone of your life. So it's really hard then to separate yourself from that. Or when you do it, after those couple of weeks, and you start getting lonely and you start getting missing, and because they recognize they've lost power, they will start bombarding and showing their care and compassionate side again, and that'll reel you back in.
Even with that as well, a lot of the time that's when the wound of why this has happened comes up for you, and it's at the surface of that loneliness and that narrative, and that comes up of, this proves now, because I am alone and because this person is no longer here, I am not worthy. Yeah. And, those negative core beliefs come up, and that can be really difficult to sit with. And if someone is coming back, despite the fact that they were, manipulative and controlling and coercive, or whatever the dynamic was, despite all of that, they do soothe that temporarily for you. So I have a lot of compassion for people that end up back in those situations.
You touch on something really important there. In the aftermath, there is a tendency for the survivor of that relationship to beat themselves up for, how could I be that stupid to have been in that relationship in the first place? And what they're not seeing is that perhaps they were carrying a vulnerability into that relationship. And when I say vulnerability, that doesn't imply something bad. Like that could just mean, I really want to be in a loving relationship.
Yeah, I really want to feel safe.
And I want to believe them, so I'll believe them. And these people, the really manipulative, toxic, coercive, controlling, abusive side of things, where that person is very, very, very skilled at what they do.
Yes.
You're a normal person going about your day looking for love, security, safety, happiness. And this person has a gap in their soul.
Interrupt you for a second. I'm going to go back to my image, because what it's saying to me as well is, like, if you imagine like a home that you have, if you're the person that is going in with those good intentions and wants to be loved and wants to feel safe, you have experiences that make you want to take care of other people as well. That's a big one. And also feel taken care of course. You're going to be coming at it from a totally different like blueprint and seeing people in a different way and seeing the good in people.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone has a gap in their soul, their blueprint is either non-existent or it's really dark. And I think for the person that goes into it with a good intention and, you know, initially that will hope for a healthy relationship, they tend to not want to see that in someone else, or they just tend to actually not see that because that's not their experience.
They want to believe the best in other people.
Yeah.
Empaths, people who care, they are more likely to be vulnerable to relationships that are toxic because they always put the other person first, or that's their first point of call. It's okay, I can take it as long as I'm looking after whoever, whatever.
Yeah.
That takes work to recover that. It doesn't make you a bad person to say no. We're kind of moving into the last part of this section there when we're talking about kind of recovering. How does somebody build back trust with themselves? And it is kind of recognizing what they carry with them into those relationships. And like we might do some inner child work or reparenting there. So that is kind of the person being encouraged to sit with the wounded part of themselves and be empathetic, to show care and maybe experience that for the first time in their lives.
Yeah, to compassionately inquire with parts of themselves that they haven't necessarily looked at.
To meet ourselves without blame is such a powerfully healing experience.
Yeah, I'm actually making a bit of a sad face because it's such gentle and important work.
It really is. And like dealing with the wounds on either side, like what makes somebody into that controlling person within a relationship, that is also gentle, slow work if the person's available to it. And I think that's something else that comes up in toxic relationships where one person will think, well, I can fix them or I can help them or I can heal them. Like you can't, Janet. The only thing you can do is show them.
When did she hurt you?
Show them a pathway. And if they're willing to do the work, they need to go down that path themselves. But you can't change somebody else. They need to be available to change themselves.
Yeah.
We need to move on.
Yes.
So we've gone through what's in the room. We've spoken about it's giving toxic relationships. So now it's time to meet Florence and Jack.
Florence and Jack.
This is the information that we got from Florence. So, dear No Clients Were Harmed, my name is Florence. I'm 32 years old and my now ex Jack is 34. I'm actually stunned to be in this position, but he broke up with me a few weeks ago and I'm really struggling to understand what the hell happened. I had expected him to come crawling back by now, but it's been a month and he doesn't even want to talk to me. Jack is a fairly quiet, inoffensive guy. You can probably relate to that, Rachel.
Did you say inoffensive? Okay.
Yeah, he's beige.
Oh.
He's fairly quiet, inoffensive. I feel that he has struggled with how much more motivated and successful I have been in my life. I'm in finance, have a great career. I look well physically, going to the gym and being careful with what I eat. I don't drink to excess, but enjoy a night out with the girls every once in a while. And like, to be honest, they have been a great outlet for me to share my frustrations of the relationship. Jack is Mr. Stable, Mr. Dependable, or at least so I thought. He works as a teacher and I've never looked down on him for that. Okay. He doesn't have great financial prospects and sometimes I have wondered if he took the easy option of that pensionable job for life.
Wow.
You know that old saying of those that can do and those that can't teach? Are you aware of that? I don't know, Florence. Yeah. So he used to be outgoing and social. We would have had great discussions on politics and world events, but in the last year or so, he seemed to have lost interest. To be honest, I have gotten fed up with having to drag opinions out of him, and when I do, they have been the most banal, senseless notions, and I found it difficult not to laugh.
Wow.
It seemed hard for him to understand the points I was making, although he would eventually agree with me. At least he stopped hanging out with his deadbeat friends.
Okay.
I've been working hard to get everything ready to try for a baby. Jack knew my feelings on this and how important it is for me to become pregnant at the age of 33. I've only got 1 year left.
Wow.
After all the work that I've put into the relationship and helping Jack to become a man who would be a good partner and father, I'm totally dumbfounded that he decided to leave the best woman he can hope to be with, let alone followed through on a decision for once.
Oh, there's some strong words in that. Go on.
Any advice you might give as to how to get him to see sense and to avoid these little tantrums of his in the future would be much appreciated. All I'm looking for is the recognition I deserve. Ciao for now, Florence. Right, so...
See ya. Okay.
See ya. Well, no, I mean, let's... From the perspective of we have received a letter, like usually it would take a lot for somebody to be vulnerable,
yes,
to write a letter, to send it in. So we do need to recognize that somewhere Florence is upset.
For sure. I think the defenses or the defensive wording that I'm hearing and the belittling of Jack, to me that is, a protection of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I do, but she's coming across as an asshole. It's
giving she's a teacher and he's a student and he's not doing what she's telling him to do.
Wow, and he's supposed to be the teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. That piece of she's coming across as an asshole. As a humanistic therapist, I believe in the inherent goodness of people.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that people are saints all the time.
No.
And that sometimes out of trauma or hurt or upset or a need for control, I'm including you in this, not necessarily me, but definitely you, can behave in ways that upset other people.
Okay, Eoin.
Florence is writing in explicitly, she's asking us to point out to Jack everything that he's doing wrong and how lucky he should be to be in that relationship.
Yeah, and also how she can make him hear that instead of, like, it doesn't sound like there's any flexibility in her thinking. It's just, my point is very, very right. I'm looking at it from all angles and tell me how I make him understand that.
Yeah.
There's a lack of awareness or acceptance that she has a role to play in this. It's very much Jack is the issue. I think, what was the wording? I don't look down on him for that. Even using that wording sounds to me quite manipulative and saying, like, I know other people would, but I don't do that. What does that mean if she doesn't necessarily look down on him? But then she continues to call his friends deadbeat. She continues to say that he's in a pensionable job. What she's saying is not matching up to the rest of it, really. I felt kind of stuck in that letter. Like there's no movement in her opinion.
And like the black and white aspect of it as well. Like she is in the right, he's in the wrong. Yeah. He's boring, Mr. Dependable. He's not going to do anything exciting. She is this successful comet that is gracing him with her light, her radiance.
So it's sounding like you're welcome, Jack. The goal is to fit into her own perception of the world, I suppose.
And he doesn't even give opinions anymore. And she doesn't know why he doesn't give opinions anymore.
What's your opinion as to why he doesn't give an opinion anymore?
My opinion is that he has changed from this person who used to be outgoing, who did have a social life with his friends, who used to have opinions and feel comfortable and safe in expressing them. And he no longer does. And my hunch would be that he woke up one day, realized how different he is now, his life is now, how he has been affected or impacted by how he has been treated within the relationship, and just gone, nah, I'm out.
Yeah. If that's the way he was, if he was very opinionated and was very maybe outgoing or different, shall we say, at the beginning of the relationship, it's sad to hear her not look at why the relationship may have played a role in that, or if the relationship would have played a role in that, or if she would have played a role in that. Because obviously we're discussing toxic relationships, and it's like the impact not only on Florence, but also the impact that has on the other person, like Jack.
He exists to fit into the version of her life that she has spent a long time curating. I don't want to take it away from her. Like, she is successful. Somebody who has achieved what she has achieved, unless there's a bit of Nepo baby going on there, like, she has had to work hard to get what she's gotten. But there is something around I'm supposed to have a baby at 33. I want to turn Jack into a good man, a good father, a good partner. And like, if you don't think he is that person, Florence, why are you with him?
Not the name at the end of that sentence.
There needs to be a level of awareness on her part of how she might be coming across. And that's one of the core issues within toxic relationships, where one person doesn't take any responsibility or a chance to kind of go, oh, actually, maybe I could have said that better. Maybe I'm contributing to that. Maybe I have hurt the other person's feelings. Florence is a steamroller, and she gets what she wants, and Jack either gets flattened or he gets out of the way. And it feels to me like he was flattened and now he's gotten out of the way.
It makes me sad for him. I know it's about her. She's written the letter in, but just the impact that it can have on people that go through situations where obviously the other person has no awareness, because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody can be an asshole at times and, react in certain ways that aren't necessarily the healthiest, or have little moments of manipulation. If you don't want to, do a job around the house, you might stay in your bedroom for longer than you should, or in the bathroom for longer than you should. And like, those things are normal in a relationship, but not normal, but natural in a relationship. Again, I'm going to say the word, but it just sounds suffocating for him. And I'm sad for her that she doesn't see that, because I'm sure those timelines and that the kind of rigidity of her idea of what her life should look like must feel at times suffocating as well.
Full disclosure here, this letter hits a bit close to home because my mother was a teacher, and it was difficult growing up in small town, back hole of nowhere. I could not scratch my nose in public, let alone get a shift down the back of a bicycle. It would be, Mrs. O'Sullivan, did you know that your son was? Mrs. O'Sullivan, I saw your son smoking. I couldn't do anything or anyone, but I would get in trouble. Like, I mean, my mother, I love her, but she knows that she can also be really bloody annoying at times, because she has what some people might describe as a teacher's personality. Like, she likes to have all the answers. And what you said about like Florence being the teacher and Jack being the student, it's like Florence has decided she has all of the answers for life. And Jack needs to be the good boy and behave as he should.
I think that kind of thing that Florence said does boil my blood. And I think particularly because she said, I don't look down on him. I don't remember the exact words, but like other people would. And she's giving her credit. Like, I am such a nice person because I don't look down on him. Look how humble I am.
Exactly. That fits a character description of a vulnerable narcissist. Like, look at me. This is what I have to put up with. And I'm so good for doing it.
And for staying and for fighting for it when he just gave up.
Like, she obviously values money, and that's a main driver for her. Teachers don't get paid a lot. And, they don't get paid as much as they deserve to get paid. But that maybe isn't a priority for him. And I'm not sure that she would be able to hear that. And we're back to that kind of tolerance of a differing view and an acceptance of a differing view. Where do we think Jack is? Like, emotionally and physically?
Probably devastated and trying to rebuild his sense of self.
I think he's on the piss with his friends. I think he's in Ibiza somewhere and he's like living at large for a while.
Oh, Owen.
What?
You think he's out on the piss. Okay, go on, explain.
I think he's out on the piss. Like, he has broken up with her. He's left. He's not looking back. Like, she expected him to be crawling back, and he is gone. He's gone back to his friends. They've gone, thank God. And he's maybe in denial at the moment. And I think it is going to hit him in another month or 2 months.
I'm hoping he's back on the apps.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great for people that are on the apps.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, but yeah.
No, of course you wouldn't. But like, at some point he is going to start missing her.
Yeah.
If she decides that either she's insulted because he's decided she's not good enough for him, that she then has a point to prove. I'll go back, I'll make him want me again, and then I'll leave him.
The cycle,
and I'll regain the power, or I'll stay with him but make sure that he knows he can never do that again.
Yeah.
There is the defensiveness and the lack of awareness that's there. And in the podcast situation, we're showing different parts of ourselves than we ever would in the room. Like, this isn't us being psychotherapists. This is us being human. We want to reach our audience. We want to be humorous. But at the same time, this is a therapy-related podcast. So if she's telling me this at the start, what I'm kind of picking up on is that lack of awareness, that defensiveness, and there is a wound there that hasn't been healed. There is some heartache there that has resulted in her having the need for control.
Yeah.
What I'm hoping to see in Florence is that she has a moment of understanding or recognition of what it might have been like for Jack to be in a relationship with her.
Yeah. I think a huge part of this is more than likely it's trust. Her trusting that despite her defenses, that, you know, she is safe, and giving her the space. I think it's really important in this as well to allow her to speak as much as possible so she can hear her own narratives and the rigidity of her outlook. Being gentle with the fact that these defenses are probably have been useful for her at some point and necessary to actually, you know, keep your head above water, you know, emotionally at some point in her life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But if we want to thrive and maybe even exist in the world, like, let alone have a healthy relationship, we need to take the risk, because relationships are risk. We can never control somebody else to the extent that we're not going to be hurt. Like, to live is to be hurt.
Yeah. And I think it can be difficult in an environment, you know, you have such incredibly rigid defenses up. It can be really difficult to get to that point where you trust someone enough to actually say that.
And like, that's so common. Quite often we're dealing with our own stuff, but we might also be dealing with our parents' stuff that they haven't worked on themselves and they've just transferred onto us.
Absolutely.
And to sit back and realize that how we view ourselves is based on things that we have been told that aren't necessarily true, or have come about because somebody was in a bad mood, or they've said the wrong thing, or they've been experiencing grief or the breakup of a relationship or whatever it is, and that has stuck to us and we're based our lives on that. That can be really confronting and freeing, but also frightening.
Yeah.
And it could be decades later that they realize that they're living their life based on the decision of a traumatized 14-year-old.
Yeah. When it comes up in the room as well, it's such a young part, even the language at times that's used, and sometimes the body language, if something feels like a held breath, and maybe their home has felt like a held breath, it holds those things and it remembers those things, even if we don't consciously think of them in the moment. And I think that's a really difficult but freeing moment to recognize, like, yes, this did happen, but it doesn't mean that I have to continue my life carrying it with me, because I'm not that age anymore.
I think for this relationship, Jack needs to spread his wings for a bit and kind of inflate himself after being run over by the steamroller.
Yeah.
But if he wants to salvage this relationship, because there was something there at the start. Like there was a reason why they've been together for as long as they have been together.
Mm-hmm.
And in a situation like this, what I would be saying is the relationship that you've had is dead. It's gone. But there is a possibility if you want to have a new relationship. It wouldn't be easy. Jack would need to listen to episode 1 and boundaries and bring that into the relationship with Florence.
Yeah.
Florence would need to not only say the right words, but actually live and exhibit that she is able to accept that she had a part to play in this, that she is not perfect. And you know what? It's okay for her not to be perfect.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. The willingness to accept that she's not perfect and neither is Jack. And they both have 2 separate blueprints that they're working off. And that's okay.
I think part of the problem is she's very much aware that Jack isn't perfect.
Yeah.
And not give herself credit that she's not holding it over his head.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at me. I'm so generous that I'm going out with somebody that isn't perfect or up to my high standards. Florence, get over yourself.
Listen, Flo.
But that's the work,
Yeah.
The chow for now part of it. And that was the first thing that jumped out to me about the letter was how she wasn't upset at the breakup of the relationship. She's not really missing Jack. She's missing the piece in her life that Jack fulfilled.
Yeah, she's missing the boost that her ego was getting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so flippant at the end. Ciao. See ya.
Yeah. See ya. That's it. So if we're looking at repairing this, and I'm not saying that the relationship is doomed, nor am I saying that Jack should give it another go.
Good.
But if he chose to, there are things that he would need to be aware of. And I think that's one thing also that people don't necessarily understand about psychotherapy. It's not for us to decide for a client or tell them what they want to do, because it's their life. And there are things that a client would do in their lives that they would be very, very happy with and fulfilling, and I would bloody hate.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So we're there to help them and facilitate them to make the best decision that they can for their lives. If Jack wants to give it another go, fair enough. If Florence wants to give it another go, fair enough. But there would need to be, Jack can't go into this being no blind again.
Yeah.
He needs to be aware.
No blind, go on.
He needs to be aware of the red flags.
Yeah.
And they would definitely, in my opinion, need some couples counselling so that it could be processed. And the counselling would need to happen before they started back up the relationship.
Yeah. I think even particularly you said he needs to be aware of them, but he also needs to take action not against them, but with them. If he knows that she's like this, but he's not doing anything about it, that's still a huge issue and the pattern will continue. But if he knows it and he's aware of it and he uses that to change his own responses to it, I suppose there's hope.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned for Jack as I would be for Florence. If she is saying to us that he has deadbeat friends, if she's communicating to us that she doesn't approve of his job or his prospects and he's a bit boring, I can only imagine what it was like for him to live in that environment for as long as he was living in that environment. Yeah,
and even the banal comment, the opinions and stuff like that, the wording that she's used to describe his own outlook on what sounds like life, must have been incredibly difficult for him.
Yeah. So would you have hope for them? I mean, we can't have every couple that we're using as an example break up. We have to have some hope for people. Okay.
No,
right.
I have hope for every relationship, but it does come with the necessary expectation that they will both accept that both people are imperfect in general. And the work that happens in between therapy sessions, whether it's couples counselling and their own individual therapy, is so integral to whether or not the dynamic can change.
Yeah, and there's going to be work ahead.
Do you have hope for them, Eoin?
I don't know. I present as cynical, but there is an old romantic behind me as well. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it would be a really nice story if Florence does a bit of work on herself and recognizes that she doesn't need to be so hard on Jack or so hard on herself.
I agree. Hopeless romantic. Didn't know that, Eoin.
I'm buried under like tons of cynicism.
Yeah, no, I'll be open. I'm just a hopeless romantic through and through. But funnily enough, actually, I was told that by an English teacher that I had in secondary school, who I met about 4 years later. I was a waitress, and she said to me, "Rachel, are you still a hopeless romantic?" I said, "Wow." I still remember that because I used to dissect all the poems, and I decided that they were all romance poems, which is probably about like a frog. And I was like, "That's romantic." And she was like, "What?" So I've always been a hopeless romantic, so I have hope for everyone.
I suppose I would like to say that it can be a positive thing that a relationship that ends provides with it an awful lot of room for growth.
Yeah.
These two, they might have shared the amount of their journey that they were supposed to share.
Yeah.
And in couples counseling, sometimes it's not about how do we save the relationship, but it's about how do we make peace with, we've shared an important time in our lives that, you know what, you've been a significant character or important element in my life, and you've shaped how I am now, and I'll always appreciate you for that, but now it's time to move on.
Yeah.
So even if they didn't get back together again, that could still be a happy ending for both of them.
Yeah. And, they can both find value in that experience. Definitely.
I think with today and social media, again, like all of that, it's so hard for somebody to get closure.
Yeah.
And again, episode 1, boundaries, it's worth a listen. It's fair to say we have come to an end of episode 2.
Yes, we have. That was fun.
Thanks very much to everyone for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed yourself as much as we have.
We've loved it so much. I have anyway. Have you, Owen?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been real.
Please do follow us, like, share, subscribe, and definitely send this to someone if you feel they might benefit from it or just get a laugh out of what we have had to say.
We'll meet you again for our next episode where we're going to be having a bit of an argument as we explore conflict styles. And if there is such a thing as a good fight, look after yourselves and each other. And if you're going to take the piss, make sure that it's not toxic.
For sure. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening.